Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We'll be looking at why asset lifecycle information management is a critical disruptor to your digitization strategy. I'm Robin Hume and I'm a Senior Product Manager for Asset Information at Bentley Systems. I want to start today by posing two questions which are central to the theme of why asset lifecycle information management is critical. The first is, are you confident in your organization's ability to make the most of its investments in digital technology? The second is, does your organization resist change due to the difficulty of extracting the information? Please have a think about these in the context of your organization and consider your answers to them as we go through this webinar. We'll start by looking at the digital movement. So, what is it, and crucially, who owns it? Well, we like to think of this journey in 5 levels. At the first level, there are a lot of disconnected silos of information. Some are paper-based and some are in databases. There may be GIS systems showing where the assets are, but they're not linked. Typically, these systems are owned by, well, whoever created them. Engineering, IT, document management. As we move into level 2, we start to see a centralized IM team at a corporate level, represented by an IM discipline in operations, taking ownership of the journey. This team assumes responsibility for information management, with a focus on reducing costs and improving safety by maintaining data integrity in the long term. It also has a lifecycle information management system, managing tags, documents, physical assets, and the relationships between them. From level 3 onwards, a standard specification defines all of the requirements right through the lifecycle, as well as the processes, again looking to generate long-term benefits. Robust change management also improves safety and reduces the incidence of shutdowns. By managing these changes across all systems in real time, the instances of conflicting, out-of-date information are reduced, which is a real problem that operators face. By connecting these systems, the amount of time taken to find information is also shortened, as is the effort needed to update all of the required systems following a change. This leads to correct and trusted information from which you can perform advanced processes such as the predictive and prescriptive analytics we see in levels 4 and 5. Having a lifecycle information management system with connected and validated information enriches a digital twin. It allows you to select objects in the visualization and look at their information, documentation, and full change history. It's important to note, though, as you go through this journey, it's imperative to keep doing the things which allowed you to get to those levels in the first place. Sticking to the best practices in levels 2 and 3 will help you make the most of your digital twin through levels 4 and 5. So, what does this look like at level 1 before digitization really takes off? Well, you have teams and disciplines, and they work together. They all produce information which they store in a series of databases. Now, the information in these databases is linked, though they aren't connected. This means that the decisions and calculations may not be based on current information, so they may contain errors. This can happen when information is held in these databases and changes aren't communicated, and so these information databases become silos. Furthermore, the green stars show that 3 of these databases contain duplicate information, though this doesn't necessarily mean they contain the same information. Depending on when or from where this information was collected, there may be conflicts. They also just collect the information they need at that moment in time to complete their tasks. So how does this work across a life cycle? Well, typically there's a project phase who hand over to operations. At the start of the project, there's a small number of people with just a few systems and databases. As the project progresses, more people and more teams join, bringing with them more databases and potential information silos, and more potentially incorrect, inconsistent, and conflicting information. As the project hands over to operations, the teams look to populate their own databases. It's at this point there's typically a lot of missing information and potential quality issues identified, and gathering this can be a costly exercise. Failing to resolve the quality issues as well can have large safety implications. Now, I'm sure this is a scenario which most will recognize, at least in part. So how do you get started? Well, firstly, it's not just about new systems, tools, and databases. It's a cultural movement within an organization. Openness with information, collaboration, and a commitment to reducing lifecycle costs and improving performance and safety are critical to success with digital tools. Whether you're moving from level 1 to level 2 or from level 3 to level 4, a centralized information management discipline must own the journey, and they must be empowered to take ownership of the specifications and processes. The whole lifecycle information management requirements must be included. To support this, Bentley has developed standard specifications to help kickstart your own movement, meaning you can generate returns from your investments much more quickly. A standardized specification can also reduce setup costs for future projects, as there will already be a template to deliver to, updated to include the lessons learned from your journey so far. And of course, the core of the movement must be a lifecycle information management system which delivers to your strategy. So how does this work in practice? Well, as before, the project looks to hand over to operations. The project contains a number of systems, including contractor systems, design tools, document management, etc. And these all produce information. As the project moves into the operations phase, the relevant information, including tags, so functional design information, documents, and physical assets, is used to populate these systems. So far, it's very similar to the previous example. And again, this is often a point where missing information is identified. Those project teams have been working towards handing over to operations without the understanding of what information was needed going forwards. Now, as well as the systems, looking at the full lifecycle requirements means collecting information required for engineering change projects and process improvement. So best practice lifecycle information management collates all of these requirements for all of the systems and processes and compiles them into a specification, owned and administered by that centralized information management discipline. This specification, which again Bentley has produced standard versions of, is used to configure the information systems at each stage. It's also used to set up the lifecycle information management system, which ensures that the specifications requirements are being satisfied, as well as validating the data against defined parameters and comparing the data across systems to highlight conflicts. Now, this complete and validated and trusted information set can be used in operations, with changes diligently managed for all of the necessary processes throughout the asset's lifecycle. To reiterate, the key element is a culture which embraces information management. It makes use of the lifecycle information management system, which focuses on your core business. That's the assets you own. Crucially, it's as important to brownfield as it is to greenfield. One of the most common things I hear is that this sounds like it will only benefit greenfield new projects. This is definitely not the case. It's never too late to get started. Whatever the age of the asset, it will still have a life cycle, The returns will always be greater the earlier you can implement these systems and processes, but it's never too late to see real benefit. Now, with that in mind, we're going to look at a short video. We're going to look at a scenario in a brownfield facility and how we can move towards digitization for the first time. I'll set the scene. An operator believes that an asset they own is not performing as well as it should be. And although there haven't been any incidents, safety could definitely be improved. This facility has been operating for some time, but the engineers are concerned that they don't have a full picture of it in terms of knowing exactly what they own. Now, they're definitely operating at a level 1 in the digital journey we looked at before, but they're keen to start a movement towards a more information-centric culture. With an aim of moving to level 2, they've created an information management discipline who've been collecting all of the information they can find from all of the sources. They've deployed Bentley's ALIM as a lifecycle information management tool and are looking at managing tags and documents in a single place. Their first task is to compile an asset register from the drawings they have. So we're going to log into the ALIM system and we're going to create a document. So this is the PNID that they found for this asset. Now we could calculate a number based on the document numbering, but as this is an existing PNID, it already has one. So we're just going to input its information. So now we've created the document, we need to upload a file. So this is the PNID that we found. And in this case, it's in a PDF format. So by clicking Save, the scraping processes will be kicked off running in the background. So they're looking for tag and document numbers as well as properties which can be gleaned. So by refreshing this page now, we'll be able to see all of the objects which have been identified. So you can see these tags have been created as objects within ALIM, but they're not yet approved. So clicking on one pulls up some of the information that's been found, and clicking on the URL takes us into the PNID itself. So as the viewer opens up, you'll see that this tag has been highlighted and centered in the view. And the boxes around the other tags are other objects which have been picked up. So going back to ALIM, we can do the same with those other objects, and we can look at the tags in there. So again, clicking on this indicator, we can see the information we've scraped and view it within the document itself. Now, as well as tags, this scraper will also have picked up documents that are related. So we can create document-to-document relationships. So from the starting point of a PDF drawing, we can quickly start to build a list of the assets and their data. This is a key step in creating a brownfield digital twin, which will enable this operator to gain a deeper understanding of their asset, from which they can look to drive process and safety improvements. They have big plans for generating efficiency from digital tools, and by proving this in a small way, they're giving themselves a launchpad from which they can scale quickly. So having laid the groundwork for the digital movement, how do you keep the journey on track? It's about using the systems and processes you've put in place and maintaining the best practice you've implemented. You need to use the lifecycle information management system to manage registers, changes, and connect tags, physical equipment items, and documents. It's key to maintain data integrity across the digital ecosystem. Ensure changes are cascaded through all relevant systems and there are no conflicts or out-of-date information. Avoid the silos and issues we spoke about earlier. Remember that without an asset lifecycle information management system and specifications, your digital movement can quickly become a digital relic. It won't resemble your physical asset and you will lose the benefits you've worked so hard to gain. Once the foundations of each level have been put into practice, it can be time to level up. Digital twins can be enriched by data from many sources, and tools such as 3D models, predictive analytics, and predictive maintenance can help drive additional value. All of these benefit from the data contained in the lifecycle information management system, meaning it can act as a launchpad for further digitization. So to summarize, throughout the digital movement, lifecycle information management must be at the core. This must be owned by a centralized information management discipline, backed up by a step-changing culture. Openness with information, collaboration, and a commitment to reducing lifecycle costs and improving performance and safety are critical to success with digital tools. It starts with a specification and a lifecycle information management system. The whole lifecycle requirements must be included. To support this, Bentley has developed standard specifications to help kick-start your own movement. A standard specification can also reduce setup costs for future projects. Now, Bentley has found that organizations which implement this best practice realize the most gains. Don't get left behind. Thank you for taking the time to view this webinar. Please do check out the others in this series, including the keynote, which is on the theme of Think Big, Prove Small, and Scale Fast. Thank you, and very best of luck with your own digital movement.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.